Some people are upset about the Dahmer movie. Shout out to Lil Bootsy, who says black people need to boycott Dahmer. Shout out to Tariq Nasheed, who said it was a good show, quote unquote. To be fair, he specified good in terms of like cinematography, scripting, acting, etc. But to avoid confusion about it, I would credit that as being more entertaining. I think entertaining is the word, which could actually be a bad thing in the sense that it can make a bad thing more intriguing and more palatable, like GMO fried pork with salt and extra duck sauce or something like that. All the extras that make a thing more palatable and enjoyable and don't necessarily make it good for you, right? So if anything, the word is entertaining rather than good. But that being said, I want to speak about a deeper problem that I see with the proliferation of popularizing shows such as Dahmer, Lucifer, P-Valley, Dexter with a Smile, and the horde of new age anti-heroic protagonists that seek to infiltrate the big screens of the theater and the smaller ones that replay in our homes and our minds. To engage the audience, you have to make the audience engage with the characters in the movies. And this is very telling, I think. It means that you have to play in the audience's empathy, or at least their sympathy with the character. Otherwise, they're not going to find it engaging. This means the audience must be shown that they have something in common with the characters on the screen, the protagonist in particular. The headliner of the show will never be engaging to the audience and hence never interesting until the audience identifies with that character to a great degree. This is why the older scripts, like back in the days, the protagonist in the movie was typically the good guy. The assumption and point was that the audience would be led to empathize with the good guy, or at least to identify with the good character. The societal benefit for this type of media en masse was that it led the media-consuming society in general to see the good in themselves. It was to connect with that good in themselves, whether written on the pages of a book or projected up on a big screen. This is why the audience cheers when the good guys win and overcome evil. It is by extension their own victory. This is what made the audience feel good leaving the theater. No, that doesn't have to be stated necessarily. That's Theater 101. But just in case. Covering ground, Fast forward to the neo scheme of the anti-hero. Now, to be sure, the anti-hero has always been around, but I think there's something to be said about the rise in the prevalence of the anti-hero. The anti-hero is flawed to the point that he is no hero in some instances, or at best he is a reluctant hero. His motives are not heroic, rather they are selfish and hateful. Some of the typical anti-heroic motives are like revenge, as in Blade and Spawn, for example. The monster is only heroic by consequence of pursuit of his own selfish motives. That is to kill vampires, or them niggas down the street that shot Lil Man. The point is that were it not for the negative motivation, the hero would not be taking any action at all. This is different from the traditional heroic motivations such as save innocent lives and save the planet, as with Superman or Spider-Man. Part of the true heroic motivation was evidenced in that the protagonist did not kill unnecessarily. The protagonist loathed killing, in fact, and did so when there was no other choice. But then, at the turn of the age, when the neo-ideal of the anti-hero has become prevalent in Hollywood and the Western world by extension, the degradation of the hero himself has been accelerated. What does it mean now that instead of empathizing with thoroughly good characters as the high mark, Characters such as Superman or Spider-Man or Caesar Borgia as Jesus Christ, white supremacist leaning as they may be, but that's another discussion. The audience is invited instead to empathize with Lucifer, Dexter, and now Dahmer. The audience is told that they have much more in common with Satan, with serial killers and homosexual serial killers who happen to be cannibals. Where's this leading? If the traditional theater holistic effect on society was to invite audiences to identify with the goodness within themselves, seeing the victory of good over evil as a personal win, feeling good when they left the theater because of it, then what is the net effect of this new age anti-hero, extremely anti-hero? Those masses of eyes, ears, and psyches being told to identify with the darkness within. Since, after all, we're all only human, right? Body parts in the fridge aside. Once the hero loses his virtue, his motives for taking action become necessarily less virtuous. That is to say, less good. And when the lines are blurred between what is good and what is evil, as they are in the extreme anti-hero, then the lines might as well be erased, because it has that same negative effect on society. Hubert Harrison, the activist, and some credit him as being the father of the Harlem radicalism, emphasized that politically the Negro is the touchstone of the modern democratic idea. That is to say, what is piloted in the black community is a telltale sign of what society as a whole can expect for its future, like setting the thermometer on the house and waiting for it to get hot. It's just a matter of time. I want to use as an example the rap industry, the hip-hop industry. I mean, it's something that's right before our eyes. It's happened in such a relatively short period of time that we can sort of track it and we can see the evidence, the cause and effect relationship that's happened, generationally speaking, and within recent memory. The rap industry used to idolize, or used to see as heroic, the likes of Public Enemy, X-Clan, etc. Rappers that used to talk about social justice issues and crying out for justice, political issues, about men being better men, standing up and being better men, women being better women, and us coming together to make better families. The result was that you could see in the audience, you could see in the young people, they were invited to identify with these heroes. Brothers was walking around with little continents of Africa and symbols of black empowerment on their chests. That was life imitating art. The flip side was that brothers were inspired to create black empowerment in their music and in their lives. That is art imitating life. And then, for example, along comes niggas with attitudes. NWA came out with the hit title, Fuck the Police. And it was one of the iconic and pivotal moments when the audience was invited to empathize with heroes of a new school. The pioneers of gangster rap whose motivations were not necessarily virtuous. That is to say, black empowerment and the betterment of black America was not their motivation for getting out of bed in the morning. I mean, you could make a whole song about the reason for getting out of bed. Their rise and shine was to get put to fuck a bitch, presumably not a dog, to kill a nigger or a motherfucker, and get high. And then if you don't die, by the end of the day, then you would go to sleep and wake up and do the same thing all over again. 365. Now let me make it clear that it's not a problem that a hero has flaws. All human beings have flaws, and in order to identify with somebody on the screen, the fact that that hero has flaws, it makes them more of a human, makes them more identifiable. I mean, even Superman has kryptonite, after all. The problem is when those flaws become marketed as virtues. In this case, the weakness or flaw is not shown as something that should be avoided or overcome, such as Superman avoiding kryptonite and black men avoiding killing niggers and bitches. But that same flaw becomes part of what makes the anti-hero admirable. When it becomes the flaw that makes the anti-hero admirable or interesting. The evidence in this case study is that after gangster rap turned the turntable, African continent necklaces became unfashionable overnight with one-hit record. Niggas, born-again niggas snatched off their African medallions, dropped the black fists and picked up the blunts, pistols. A lot did. The African necklaces became unfashionable, as did the liberation mentality that saw the value in those icons of rebellion against systematic injustice. As Dr. Dre put it so eloquently confessedly in Let Me Ride off that Chronic album, 1992, he said, and I quote, "Just another motherfucking day for Dre. So I begin like this, no medallions, dreadlocks, or black fists. It's just that gangster glare with gangster rap. That gangster shit makes a gang of snaps." And Dre was a cool motherfucker. No shade to Dre. When you look around at society today, it's evident that a generation or two of killing niggas and bitches doesn't lead to cohesive families. In fact, killing niggas and bitches leads to stray dogs. Some locked up, some roaming on the loose, some euthanized. But remember, the Negro is the touchstone of the modern democratic experiment in America. If we as black people are the thermostat, we need to turn down for our own sake first and let the whole nation follow. What does that mean? It means to follow those with good motives and reasons. Think about it. Killing, hypersexuality. The killing, hypersexuality, and drugs are not virtues. They are habits and they are vices, flaws of the hero. And while your Superman may have flaws, the flaws are not evidence of his goodness. Like any other thing that we can do heroes, they are to be overcome. Think about it. Choose your hero wisely, starting in the mirror. No longer killers, devils, and cannibals, but the ones you truly want to see looking back at you from that mirror as your life imitates the art that you see. Think about it.